and it's so much harder to integrate back into society.
Welcome to 10-Minute Travels. With me as always is Phil Freeman.
And with me as always is Shane Patrick. And tonight we have a very special guest, Tia Shoemaker, a really good friend of mine. And she grew up in Bush, Alaska.
Let's get right to it, shall we? So Tia, you have to travel to find clients. You write a blog that requires an internet connection. And you spend entire seasons in a vast wilderness. How do you balance the two worlds?
I guess it's kind of an interesting question because I have seen a lot of, like you said, kids that have grown up very remotely that don't. And a lot of people that they find a niche that works for them, an identity, and that's what they always stick with. That's what they know. And so it's hard to, I guess, transfer between worlds, if you will. But I've always seen my parents manage in the bush and then in a city environment, be able to function. And I've always respected the people that can handle themselves in Vegas and still go out and guide a hunt.
It's a wide skill set.
Yeah, you're not boxing yourself in. And I've heard it, I've heard people say like, oh, well, I just don't want to be a chameleon or something like that. I don't view it as that. I see it as being it's having different skill sets. You put on your instructor cap to work with kids, which is totally different than if you put on your guiding cap to work with hunters, or totally different if you're wearing your, I'm going to sell you a hunt cap in Vegas. Like, it's just you have to be dynamic, I guess. My brother Taj and I, growing up, we had this thing where we hunted ptarmigan. We loved hunting ptarmigan with our bows. But sometimes we just go out, usually the two of us, hunting. But sometimes we would say, all right, this time, that's true. This time I'm going to be the guide and you're going to be the client. And we
guys would
draw straws. Yep. We would totally role play. Yes, absolutely.
And how old are you? You guys are little.
I think it was 5 when we started. I was 5 when I shot my first target. And then ever after that, it was the bow and arrow. And then ever after that, it was we would role play of who had to be the client and who had to be the guide. And
oh, dang.
You get like little fights and tiffs about it, who had to be at this time. And then as a client, you would always want to like outshine the guy. You'd be like, oh, I see the animal first, or I can do the stock of my own. But it was an agreed upon thing where like you still had to ultimately take the word of the guide and follow their lead. So that way we trade off and on. That was like so at least we knew what it was like to be a client. We didn't necessarily like it. But we knew.
When you go from lots of people to little people, do you just like get right into it? Do you have a transition period? Is one way harder than the other? Is it easier to go to the wilderness, or is it easier to go to Vegas or whatever?
It is definitely easier to go into the wilderness. I do notice a kind of a trend where you feel weird for like a week, because you don't have a cell phone, you don't have internet really. You have a little bit of internet, and so it does. It unfortunately, I hate to say it, but it affects me, and it feels weird because you kind of feel like, well, maybe I would assume like a drug addict feels like, oh, I'm cut off, and you kind of crave it and want it. But then after a week, then you're just like, oh, I don't want to go back to it. And it's so much harder to integrate back into society. It's very challenging to reintegrate back into society. And once you get the hang of it, you're like, oh yeah, how could I forget it? But it's challenging not only because you're expected to perform to a certain social standard, but also because I guess everything that you respect and hold dear is gone, like being in the wilderness. So you can just take off on a hike and just, I don't know, recenter yourself. And here, you have to work to make time commuting in the wilderness happen.
Is it safe to say that you consider or you prefer wilderness over Wi-Fi?
Absolutely.
Tia, what advice would you give someone that wants to follow in your footsteps? What skills
Don't step on my heels.
Right. Aside from that, what sort of skills should one acquire to be good at what you do?
Be born incredibly fortunate to the right humans. Because while I absolutely am happy with where I am and I'm proud of it, I also recognize I wouldn't be where I was without my parents and the choices that they made and the environment that they raised us in. That's not really the answer you're looking for. That was awesome.
Well, that's sort of a cheat.
Sorry.
But I get that. You won the dice roll as far as
incredible parents, I can attest.
And having you built a lot of skills without even realizing you were, just because of who you were, where you were, and all of that. But what about the kid who, in study hall, is flipping through Outdoor Life and, Safari Club International magazines and wants to live some of the way that you're living? How does one go about it? Is the deck just stacked against you and it can't be done, or?
I don't know. It's a hard one. I guess get out and do it is the cliched answer. Like, actually pursue it. Make it happen for yourself. Reading, of course, you can really learn a lot from that, all the classic authors. But I guess finding a guide that you've heard positive things about that your morals align with to go work for. I'm kind of like Flip was saying. To intern under. That would be one way. I don't know. I have a ton of respect for the people that have gone out and pursued their guiding and hunting dreams, that have done it right, that weren't born into it. They had to actually strive for it and work, and it was a ton of work, a ton of.
It's a lifestyle. It's a ranch style.
But it's working for someone else for a long time and being at the bottom of the barrel,
seasonal,
figuring everything out, and then trying it out on your own. And that's the way my dad did it, and I really respect how he went about becoming a guide. But it just took a lot of tenacity.
When this question came into my head, it was something I remembered from when I was a sea kayak guide. We had day trippers and we had experienced paddlers that we would take out for 5 or 10 days or whatever. And we also did these kids groups, and we were just the safety people for them on this trip. The counselors were the guides. We just were making sure that everyone came back. Didn't do anything incredibly stupid. And one of those kid group guides asked my boss, because that was his dream, was to have a kayak business. And he asked him, what should I do? Should I paddle from here to there or whatever? And it was probably the end of a 14-hour day or something already. And my boss said, work as a carpenter for a couple summers, take a small engine repair class, take an accounting course. The kayaking is the easy part. So I guess I was
That's a great.
So now that you've got that background of my question, now
Okay.
what would you say?
I would say, my father always says, kind of like as a lead up to that, which is anybody can hunt. Not everyone has people skills and can guide. So get a PhD in psychology and then go on a hunt, and you're probably set to guide.
Nice. Do you have so Phil and I also have guiding experience, and we have done more group stuff. I think fishermen, you do group stuff, but hunting's kind of one-on-one or whatever, right?
The youth program that I run are all youth stuff, yeah.
Yeah,
Group
and
stuff.
so do you find that people fit into these categories? Like the person who's always late, the person who's... So can you pick them out? Like, do you know which category people fit into
We all know.
when they're getting out of the
We all know
airplane?
when we see them.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what sort of writing do you do? Do you write poetry? Do you write fiction?
I will. No, I'm just testing my hand in writing. It's something I've always wanted to do, and I've always done, but never had anyone look at until recently with the blog bit, and it's all about hunting experiences. I have this friend that's a great editor. It helps parts of it all come together. And yeah, I would like to see it going other places. I'm not sure if I have the talent yet, but I want to. The desire is there.
That was Tia Shoemaker. If you want to learn more about Tia or listen to more 10-Minute Travels, please check us out at 10minutetravels.com.
And we want to remind you to make sure that your sense of humor matches your sense of adventure. And please like, subscribe, and share this podcast on all the platforms.